Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Brief. Although the China-US trade war has been on hold for 1 year, Trump's tariff policy hasn't just been heavily criticized abroad, it's also facing legal challenges at home. On November 5th, the US Supreme Court will hear arguments about the legality of Trump's tariffs. On the other side of the Trump administration will be hundreds of American small and medium-sized businesses that have suffered greatly because of these policies. From the details revealed in this lawsuit, it's clear that these SME owners are even more outspoken than American politicians. This year, 65-year-old Rick Woldenberg, who runs 2 educational toy companies near Chicago, is one of those affected. His lawsuit stems from an issue with a product called the Hugging Yoga Ball plush toy. The original plan was to manufacture this product in China, but in April, Trump suddenly raised tariffs on Chinese goods to triple-digit percentages. So what happened next? The company was forced to urgently shift production to India. But not long after that, the White House lowered the tariff rates on Chinese goods again. And at the same time, the US imposed tariffs on India as well. Their company tried to get their goods shipped to the US before the new 50% tariff on Indian products took effect, but they were 6 hours too late. In the end, they had to pay an extra $50,000 in penalties. Woldenberg complained, saying, "We feel like refugees, drifting from one jurisdiction to another. No matter how we try to guess what will happen, it seems like we always get it wrong." Woldenberg said that his 2 companies are expected to pay an extra $30 million this year because of Trump's tariffs, while last year their tariff bill was only $2.3 million. In April this year, Woldenberg decided to sue the Trump administration, asking the court to declare Trump's tariffs invalid. The case has now been submitted to the US Supreme Court and is set to become one of the most significant economic conflicts in American history. Bloomberg pointed out that in the debate scheduled for November 5th, the Supreme Court will consider whether to cancel most of the tariffs announced since Trump took office. This could affect trillions of dollars in trade. Any ruling unfavorable to Trump would weaken his ability to use tariffs as a catch-all tool to extract concessions from trade partners, and could also mean over $100 billion in tax refunds. If a ruling favorable to Trump emerges, it could open the door to even more. A far-reaching precedent, allowing the US president to take unilateral action in the name of addressing emergencies. For this case, which the US Supreme Court is currently hearing and is considered one of the most important in history, Trump argues that these tariffs were implemented under the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which provides the president with a range of tools to address national security, foreign policy, and economic emergencies. His administration's lawyers claim that the issues of trade deficit and drug trafficking constitute a national emergency, so the president has the authority to impose tariffs. White House spokesperson Dees responded by saying that these tariffs have already helped the U.S. reach multiple trade agreements, provided a fair competitive environment for American workers and industries, and are driving trillions of dollars in investment back to the country. Writing on Trump's confidence, Homan, the deputy director of trade and economics at the America First Policy Institute, also claimed that overall, from this perspective, it's a net gain for our country and for American workers. However, Woldenberg's experience tells a completely different story. Although his company manufactures the vast majority of its products overseas, at the same time, he also employs 500 staff in the U.S., with annual sales exceeding $250 million. He also invested in building a state-of-the-art automated warehouse in the U.S. at a cost of $40 million. Pointing to the assembly line where toy microscopes and weaving kits are being put together, he says, "This isn't free, this is technology, and most of it comes from the U.S. Plus, the people working here are all Americans." According to Bloomberg, aside from Woldenberg's case, the U.S. Supreme Court will also hear cases from 5 other small and medium-sized enterprises, as well as 12 others. These are tariff lawsuits brought by Zhou, and hundreds of small and medium-sized enterprises have voiced their opposition through our Tariffs for the Heartland Coalition. Large American importers, like Walmart or General Motors, although they oppose the tariffs, have not filed any legal action. U.S. wine importer Schwab expressed surprise at this, saying that those with more power and money haven't stepped up. Professor at the Olin Business School, Washington University in St. Louis, USA. John Horn told Reuters UK that Trump's tariff policy hits small and medium-sized enterprises especially hard, because they don't have the same flexibility as large corporations to cope with the impact. Horn pointed out that big companies have more cash reserves, so they can stock up before tariffs take effect, and at the same time, they have stronger pricing and supply chain management capabilities. In contrast, SMEs have tighter cash flow and limited inventory, so they can only passively bear the rising costs. As for the pressure, he also pointed out that the reason large corporations rarely sue Trump is because they prefer to lobby the government for exemptions or special treatment. Big companies have the ability to secure exemptions through lobbying, but small and medium-sized enterprises just don't have that kind of opportunity. Meanwhile, the Trump administration would often randomly wield the tariff stick at any time. For example, on November 2nd, U.S. Treasury Secretary Bensent claimed again in an interview with the Financial Times that if China restarts or continues to restrict rare earth exports, the Trump administration is already prepared to raise tariffs again. And on November 3rd, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ling responded by emphasizing that regarding China's rare earth export control policy, the relevant Chinese authorities have already made their position clear multiple times. The results of the initial China-US economic and trade talks in Kuala Lumpur fully demonstrate that dialogue and cooperation are the way to resolve issues. The correct way is through dialogue and cooperation. Threats and pressure do nothing to solve the problem. To sum up a few observations, first, small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, in the U.S. are among the biggest victims of American tariffs. Unlike large corporations, they don't have the flexibility to adjust their supply chains, and their production scale is limited, making it hard for them to negotiate with foreign suppliers. As a result, they end up having to absorb the tariffs themselves. Second, large American corporations have enough scale to negotiate with the government and apply for exemptions from various import tariffs. This shows that whether Trump's tariff policy can actually deliver on his promise of greatly increasing government revenue is questionable. Third, this also reveals a problem with the American system. Politicians can talk big and make grand promises, but in reality, like Trump waving the tariff stick, it doesn't make America great again, it actually harms America. Small and medium-sized enterprises are collapsing again. In addition, facing suppression from the US and the West, China must firmly counteract, and past cases have proven that countermeasures are effective. On November 3rd, Nikkei Asia cited multiple sources reporting that China's previous countermeasures against Lithuania left a deep impression on Europe. The Taiwan authorities' plan to set up a representative office in Estonia was blocked due to naming issues, highlighting the complications between the Taiwan authorities and Europe on this matter. The difficulties in this matter actually started back in 2023, when the Estonian government announced that it would agree to let the Taiwan authorities set up a so-called representative office in their country. But 2 years later, according to insiders, due to disagreements over the name, the establishment of the office is still being blocked. It is understood that the Taiwan authorities are trying to imitate the name used by another Baltic country, Lithuania. That means they would be allowed to set up the representative office under the name of Taiwan. But as for Estonia, they're worried about retaliation from mainland China, so they insist on using the name Taipei. According to an insider, when China retaliated against Lithuania before, Germany once intervened for the sake of the EU's single market. However, if Estonia follows Lithuania's example, it's unlikely they'll get any help from other EU member states. The report points out that no matter which name the Taiwan authorities use, their move to set up a representative office is likely to anger mainland China. And if they use the name Taiwan, it might trigger an even stronger reaction. Besides, this development also highlights the challenges faced by the Taiwan authorities. In recent years, the Taiwan authorities have repeatedly tried to raise their profile on the international stage and sought to sign trade agreements with multiple countries, but very few countries are willing to respond. According to Nikkei Asia in October. On the 2nd, it was reported that almost all countries have shown a cold attitude towards the Taiwan authorities and are unwilling to push forward trade agreement negotiations with the Taiwan region. All signs indicate that, out of concern for angering mainland China, many countries are still hesitant to strengthen ties with Taiwan. Previously, in the Baltic region, the Lithuanian government had frequently hiked up issues related to Taiwan. In August 2021, Lithuania announced that it would allow the Taiwan authorities to set up a representative office under the name of Taiwan. In January, Lithuania disregarded China's stern protests and repeated negotiations, and allowed the Taiwan authorities to set up the Taiwan Representative Office in Lithuania. This incident led China to announce the downgrading of diplomatic relations between China and Lithuania to the charged affair level. This diplomatic row also resulted in Lithuanian goods being unable to enter the mainland Chinese market, and since then, relations between China and Lithuania have hit rock bottom. Simonas Vaitkevičius, executive director of the Europe Wealth Central and Eastern Asia Research Institute, believes that Lithuania being countered has served as a warning to other European countries. This has prompted these countries to think twice before setting up similar institutions. William Yang, senior analyst at the International Crisis Group, told Nikkei Asia that, overall, European countries still remain cautious when it comes to engaging with the Taiwan authorities. In conclusion, when China faces challenges to its bottom line from Western countries, it must respond with countermeasures. This is not only directed at the party being countered, but also serves as a warning to other countries, reminding them not to lightly challenge China's diplomatic red lines.